Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jayakula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. So tonight I want to talk about what I have called intrinsic virtue or intrinsic value. From my perspective, the quest to discover what makes human beings unique or to define human nature in contrast to other beings is problematic because throughout history we've been trying to define what makes human beings different and special. And that idea that we're different and special has wreaked havoc throughout the planet. So that's just on a global scale. If you want to say, we're the self-reflective animals, or you want to say we're the tool-using animals, or you want to say all these things that people have said about human beings, scientists have all gone by the wayside, of course. And then to say that there's something especially good about human beings, or that human beings have this intrinsic basic goodness that's particularly human in some way, really is sort of, although again it's very well intentioned, sort of skirts dangerously the same issue of trying to discover what is special and different about human beings. The problem also for us personally, when we think of goodness as something that we possess individually or as human beings, this creates a lot of problems for us personally, if we think of goodness in this relative way, because then our goodness is always at risk. For instance, we may feel that we're good, but then what happens when we do something really terrible? And it really shatters our sense of being good when we do something that we ourselves don't approve of, lying, cheating, stealing, murdering, being nasty, destroying things, all the stuff that we do. If we only look at it in this individualistic way, even or as a species thing, anytime we think goodness resides here and not over here, or potentially not over here, we are setting up a camp that has this whole threatening, environment that could impinge on our camp of goodness. And we can experience that in an individual way, right? We've desperately clawed our way into feeling good about ourselves, but then there's things in our own personal environment, our own lives, that can impinge on that. Or we can say, well, humanity's good and humanity could create an enlightened society, but then it almost becomes like a walled city. What about everything else? There's always something outside. As long as there's something outside of the thing that we're valuing most, it is impermanent, it is at risk. We will never really relax and discover anything that is actually intrinsic. It will always be fragile. The other way that is much more in line with how we talk about intrinsic value in our tradition, and that is as something totally indestructible, and that's a fundamental to everything, not just human beings, not just sentient beings, to everything, including stuff and the most heinous person you could think of, and any situation that there's this intrinsic value that is built into the situation that cannot be affected or destroyed by any particular circumstance or anything that anybody does. So when we say intrinsic value, this is what we mean. We mean adamantine Vajra nature. And why do we say that this is the fundament of our lives? and the fundament of all existence, of all manifest life. Because everything here is made out of virtue. Everything is made out of wisdom. I'm using these interchangeable words so that something might strike you, something might not strike you. You find the words that resonate with you. There's many, many different words to describe the same thing. So our actual experience and everything we are experiencing, ourselves and all the objects and the situations and worlds, are made out of wisdom and its power to create. And that wisdom has virtues such as compassion and creativity and intelligence and curiosity and clarity and joy. This is what the actual stuff of life is. These virtues are what this reality is made out of. And the display of this reality, of this virtue, of this wisdom, is what everything is. So, as highfalutin as that all sounds, the fact of the matter is that our intrinsic value is absolutely feelable and contactable by us. It is not a philosophical concept. It is not something that we only find within ourselves. Once we find it anywhere, as Abhinavagupta said somewhere in some way, and I'm just paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said, but Abhinavagupta was one of the founders of this tradition. He said that if you find this intrinsic value, this primordial wisdom, this virtue, this basic goodness, all words for the same thing, if you find it within yourself, then you will find it outside of yourself, inevitably. Finding it in yourself is the same as finding it out there. If you find it out there, then inevitably you will find it in here. So whatever way you go about it, you will discover it. That ubiquitous, unbroken goodness, virtue, wisdom, whatever you want to call it. When you begin to develop contact with that, first of all, we call that presence, or even just energy. So there's different stages of getting in touch with this, from more gross to more subtle. So we do some energy-based practices, like mantra and Kriya Yoga and things like that, or even Hatha Yoga. Through that, you can more easily feel the subtle energy of life. But that's just a gross expression of this wisdom. And when we get more deeply into practices like non-conceptual meditation, or when you feel very deeply transmission, you begin to work with Guru Yoga, opening your heart, feeling your non-difference between you and presence. Then that experience of energy becomes more of an experience of wisdom. In traditions like this, it's very easy to get stuck at the energetic level, experiencing things that are more physical feeling and thinking that that's the point. Oh, you felt some energy going somewhere in your body, and that seems very special. And it is special for a little while. But the real reason we're doing this is wisdom. We're doing this to find out who we are and what we are, and what's going on here, and what is reality actually. We're not doing it to just sit on a cushion and have some little experience of a swiggle of energy doing something. That would really not be much of a goal. We really want to understand in an embodied way who we are and what's happening. And for that, we need wisdom, we need insight. And that comes to us through the gateway of energy. And then as our senses subtleize and our mind subtleizes, then we can begin to experience this fundamental quality of livingness. And then when we experience that fundamental quality of livingness, then we can begin to experience the virtues that it's composed of directly, not in an airy-fairy or way that's so subtle that we doubt it, in a way that is undoubtable, incontrovertible. We can get in touch with this ourselves using our own senses and our mind and our practices and transmission. So only when we have an undoubtable sense of this ubiquitous goodness of everything, this ubiquitous wisdom, this ubiquitous value, only then do we really make a bridge between ourselves and caring about other people. It's very difficult to think, well, I have these ideas about ethics, or I have these ideas about how I want to treat other people, or I have these ideas about what kind of person I want to be. I want to be compassionate or something like that. It's difficult to make a bridge between that and actually caring. And the way that we make that bridge is by having a definite, undoubtable experience of the intrinsic value of everyone and everything. Then everyone becomes magnificent. Then devotion becomes our natural condition. It happens naturally, and it makes the bridge. So when we begin to discover this intrinsic value in ourselves, and we realize it's everywhere, it's what we're swimming in, it's what we're made out of, then the bridge is made for us. And concern for others becomes exactly the same as concern for self. And it becomes a form not of overly dramatic, earnest caring, but a form of, I would say, playful worship. Earnest caring only happens when we have self over self-concern. Earnest caring about things only happens when we're trying to say something about ourselves, have a self-image of some sort. But the kind of caring that arises when we recognize the intrinsic value of everything is worship. It's devotion. It's devotional caring, and it has a playful aspect. It has none of that heaviness. So in this tradition, it's not really enough to have ethics. In fact, we say you don't even need ethics. Ethics is a set of rules or ideas about what's good and bad and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But none of that will actually make you care. The best it can do is make you want to care. Or maybe you care already, and the ethics are just a grace note or an afterthought. But they can't build that bridge for you. Only real experience of reality and and the essence of your own nature and everything else can actually build that bridge for you. So we shouldn't worry too much about wanting to care about other people. Some of my students say that. I want to care more about other people. I want to be more compassionate. The best thing to do is just try to recognize presence and try to go deeply into that. And then one day you'll wake up and you actually will care in a different way than you ever thought you could.